So let's be pretty clear that American led liberal international order, liberal meaning free trade, liberal meaning we're trying to avoid World War III, all of that stuff that defined the post World War II world is over. It is dead. It is finished. That system required both American will and capability. And while we still have the capability, that will has evaporated faster than rain in like the Sahara Desert. Now, when a president votes against the United Nations resolution that condemns Russia's invasion, and you're joining basically like Russia, Belarus, and North Korea, that's not just a political shift. That is a declaration that the old rules based system that America built is being abandoned by its own architect. And it shouldn't shock anybody who's really been paying attention to demographics and resource constraints. America's internal cohesion has been fracturing for decades. Like do we all get along? Are we all polarized? Do we kind of all agree on what is real and what isn't? No, social media hasn't helped. Now the heartland has fundamentally different priorities than the coasts. Our infrastructure is falling apart. Our political system is paralyzed. And most importantly, the average American couldn't care less about enforcing global norms in Eastern Europe when we're worried about paying rent. Uh, and that's really on single family zoning more than anything else that's caused all of this. Now, what the president instinctively understands is that American power must be deployed selectively and not universally, right? We're kind of starting to choose Russia over Ukraine, not because anybody really loves Putin. We're just making a cold calculation from a realist viewpoint. Um, we're not doing it because we're fans, it's practical reasons. Russia has energy, nuclear weapons, resources, and can mess with China's northern border. Now, Ukraine, on the other hand, has farms and dreams of democracy and wants to do trade and all this fuzzy, warm stuff. But Russia is more geopolitically strategic. And I mean, I like Ukraine. You should protect it. But we're kind of cutting a lot of corners here and just being like, let's side with the best bully. Yo, what's up? So let's talk. Yeah, thanks, boss. So let's talk Europe. The Europeans have lived in a fantasy world for 75 years where American security guarantees allow them to build comfortable welfare states while spending pocket change on defense. That game is over. Germany's political transition is at a critical inflection point, but they're moving at the speed of bureaucracy, where history is moving at the speed of war. And the Europeans keep talking about strategic autonomy right now, but they lack three important components. You need energy independence, you need military capacity, and demographic vitality. These are older, aging societies that are dependent on Russian gas and American security. They're trying to defend liberal values in a world that's rapidly moving towards post liberal. This is not good for Europe. Now, if you take a look at Ukraine itself, the facts are pretty brutal on the ground. Russia controls territory and resources, maybe $12 trillion worth of Ukrainian resources. Um, Russia has more people. And most crucially, they have time. Putin just has to wait while Western resolve erodes, and the president's actions have accelerated that erosion dramatically. The critical mineral deal that's being floated is pretty revealing. It's not about helping Ukraine. It's about carving up what we call spheres of influence. It's a 21st century version of great power politics that defined the 19th century, where major powers simply decide the fate of smaller nations. We're shifting from a world that was defined by universal rules to one defined by power relationships and geographic constraints. And in this world, geography is destiny. Ukraine sits on the northern European plain with no natural defenses against Russia. The Europeans lack the demographic will and the military ability to project power eastward to protect it. And America is increasingly focused on its own internal cohesion and maybe around Asia. So, what comes next is going to be pretty messy. You see frozen conflicts, you see buffer zones, and spheres of influence replace the clean lines of national sovereignty that define the post World War II order. Basically, you see a bunch of regional wars pop out elsewhere around the world. The transition is rocky. Think wars, especially for smaller nations that get caught between great powers. But this isn't the president's creation. It's a return to historical norms before America jumped in and created the United Nations and global safety. If you look at demography and geographics and resource constraints, they're kind of putting themselves back in place after a 70-year peace holiday. And the countries that thrive in this new era are ones that recognize these big shifts and plan accordingly. You can't really cling to nostalgia anymore for a war that no longer exists. We're not watching the end of history, we're watching its violent return. The side effects are expensive. War could be global recession, global depression, higher costs for everything. Cars go up in value, maybe 30%. Um, Incomes are lower. War is never going to be good for anyone. Even if you are isolationist, you still pay for it.